Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are waking up and having a wonderful start to your day, and I hope everyone's been having a great weekend out there so far. There is a lot to cover in this morning's video as we are waking up to another significant severe weather event that will unfold over the next several hours into this evening and probably last all the way into the overnight hours. We're even waking up to some dicey weather out there this morning, but the main show will unfold later on today. We have a moderate risk, a level 4 out of 5 per the Storm Prediction Center for areas of Oklahoma and Texas. But there's many other areas that will experience severe weather for today. So the first thing we'll go over is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center and their outlook. And then we'll give you guys a state-by-state breakdown of how this will potentially unfold throughout the next 24 hours. For example, if you just want to hear about Oklahoma or Texas, there'll be a timestamp up for that. If you just want to hear about North Carolina, Virginia, there'll be a timestamp up for that. So we're going to get very detailed. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I have an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives many others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. And just note that they will drop another update in about an hour, 15, hour and a half from right at the time I'm making this video, which is just before 7 a.m. Eastern time. But this is the latest information that we have. A moderate risk in the red, level 4 out of 5, includes Childress, Wichita Falls, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, all the way into Oklahoma. Lawton, Ardmore, level 4 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, Oklahoma City, over to McAllister, all the way down south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area into the Arklatex. It does include a very small section of, say, southwest Arkansas. The extreme northwest corner of Louisiana, Abilene included, Lubbock, Amarillo, all the way up the Guymon areas of the panhandle of Oklahoma. And then we have a slight risk that goes around that. So don't ignore the slight risk, even though you're not in the highest category here. But the yellow, level 2 out of 5, you have a risk of severe weather also. And I could see some things tweaking here. I don't think we'll go up another category. The next category up is the infamous high risk. It would show up in pink. I don't think we'll do that. This moderate risk is certainly warranted from what we are seeing on model guidance. So what's driving this? If we look at the wind threat for today and the pink, that is a 45% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. The red is a 30% chance of that, and the yellow is a 15% risk of that. And then if you check out the black outline region, with the black dashes going in between, it includes all of the pink and red area and portions of the yellow. That's a 10% risk of significant winds, which is considered 70 to 80 miles per hour. Now, the Storm Prediction Center mentions 80 to 100 mile per hour wind gusts being possible. That's exactly what it says. That's not me just making up something. They literally say 80 to 100 mile per hour wind gusts possible with this setup. And it makes sense. Explosive storm fuel. These storms will be riding into a very unstable air mass. All hazards type deal. So winds definitely driving the moderate risk as of now. Now we take a look at the hail threats. That red area, that is a 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. The yellow area is a 15% risk of that black outline region. That is a 10% risk of significant hail, which is considered 2 inch in diameter or larger. But once again, the Storm Prediction Center mentions hail could exceed 5 inch in diameter. 5 inches. So imagine getting 80 to 100 mile per hour winds and it's driving 5-inch hailstones. There is a real possibility of that in certain areas of Oklahoma and Texas today. We got a secondary area to watch out for some supercells. I wouldn't be surprised if this area connects on later outlooks, later updates for the outlook, but there is a 10% risk of significant sized hail down here too, like near Fort Stockton and such. So. And then we take a look at the tornado outlook. I could see this increasing somewhere in the moderate risk area, but right now just a very large 5% risk of a tornado in the brown, 2% risk in the green. This really favors just a destructive line of storms. It doesn't really favor discrete supercells, but like we've seen over the last couple of days, in some of these lines of storms, we get embedded tornadoes. I mean, we've seen that, like I said, over the last couple of days worth of severe weather. So don't ignore the tornado threat. This would just add insult to misery to what's already just a very serious wind and hail threat. So I don't want to ignore my folks elsewhere, and I'll take a look at this. So there is a slight risk that gets, like I said, into like southern Kansas, gets all the way to Kansas City, goes through Missouri, into sections of Iowa and western Illinois. And let's not ignore Missouri. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I did mention yesterday in Missouri, for Missouri, that I had no clue why they did not have a higher severe weather threat for you guys. And sure enough, y'all had what looked like almost a wedge tornado. I forgot where exactly it was in Missouri, but you produced a tornado. So let's not ignore the northern mode of this just because you're outside the main showdown here. Slight risk does extend all the way up into here. And then we got a marginal risk that goes all the way to just south of Milwaukee. And then this is our secondary area to watch for today. A slight risk from southeast Alabama through southern Georgia and the eastern half of the Carolinas, all the way up through Virginia, the Tidewater, all the way up to D.C., just south of Baltimore. Level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. So what's driving both of these setups? The tornado threat, 2% does extend all the way up through Missouri into western Illinois. And then we have the secondary area to watch out for. A 5% risk of a tornado from D.C. down to Richmond and, Fredericksburg included. So an interesting little secondary higher tornado risk in this area today. Kinematics overlapping, a pretty solid thermodynamic environment. So we're going to have a tornado risk for this day, for this area today. If it was a little bit closer to me, I would probably drive up to this area. This is probably going to be an area where we actually get more of the way of supercells compared to the moderate risk well to your west here. But 2% risk surrounds that, and we go back to the wind threat. The entire area right here that has a slight risk has a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then we take a look over here in Missouri and Illinois. You got that risk too. And then the hail threat, there is a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger in portions of Virginia. And that also extends up into areas of the Midwest. We even have a 10% risk of significant sized hail that gets all the way into areas of Kansas and Missouri, including including the area between Kansas City and Joplin. So big time severe weather expected today. So let's start off west to east. We're going to start off with Kansas first. So time frame is up here, 1 p.m. Central Time. We'll get this in motion. We take it to about 4 p.m. You can already tell there's some storms in the southern counties of Kansas, and they already look intense. If you look at the color scale here, I mean, you got these reds, the purple, the white, indicates very strong to severe thunderstorm activity. And these will just kind of cruise along the southern counties of Kansas. How far north will they get? Well, I do think as you get into the eastern areas of the state, these will start to gain some latitude, and we'll probably get some hefty activity for just about all of southeast Kansas. And this is around 7 p.m. this evening. So we keep this going, and then most of this action begins to head off into Missouri, and we could get some more thunderstorms overnight in southeast Kansas, like after midnight. But really, it's just this afternoon into this evening. I would watch out from just south of Dodge City and all the southern counties of Kansas. But as you get into southeast Kansas, there could be a couple more counties further to the north that could get some nasty storms. And then the main show, Oklahoma, northern Texas. We'll start off at 2 p.m. Convection will probably fire up here near, Guyman, the Woodard area. This is probably where the storm action will get going. It could just initialize quite literally. It could be just a hot day and then bang, the storm's fire. And that's kind of what the HER model is indicating. 3 p.m., 4 p.m. A couple things going on. We got this individual cell deep in the western sections of the panhandle of Oklahoma. We got some intense thunderstorms beginning to develop, just east of Amarillo. We got this area of storms along the Oklahoma-Kansas border. And then we take it a couple more hours. This is 6 p.m. So intense thunderstorm development. And you can see, you're going to see a lot of these squiggly lines coming off some of these storms. This indicates more intense, stronger updrafts capable of producing quite literally all hazards, hail, damaging winds, but even a tornado, especially if any sections of this line becomes discrete. So we take it another 2 hours. This is 8 p.m. This is when this line of storms becomes quite literally just life-threatening, dangerous. We got to use those words lightly, but that's the reality of this. If you live in this entire section right here of Texas and Oklahoma, southwest Oklahoma, just please be aware of this. But Lawton, Elk City, Childress getting slammed. Does this completely whiff Oklahoma City? That's a big question. It looks like you'll get the far northeast, side of this complex of storms, but you could very well get hit with the brunt of it. But model guidance is really just zoomed into this area. Wichita Falls getting destructive storms around 9 p.m. But remember, it's just model guidance. This doesn't predict the future. We can't really, it's difficult to predict exact things when it comes to the weather. I think you guys know that, but this is a serious line of storms around 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Okay, these are starting to really march into northern Texas, so we'll zoom into that area here in a second. But these storms are still very intense in the southern areas of Oklahoma. I mean, you see these just weird squiggly circle things coming off these storms. Like I said, that's intense updrafts capable of producing hurricane force winds, 80 mile per hour plus winds. And then this action continues just to head on off south. Could be intense weather in southeast Oklahoma closer to midnight. And then finally we get a break. But let's just hope that these storms are just not as bad as what they look. But you just watch for stuff like this. It's around 7 p.m. just outside of Childress. You see this cell right here that's sort of semi-discrete. This is when these could produce some tornadoes. As soon as this really becomes like bowed out and more linear, it probably drops somewhat of its tornado threat, but it will still be there, still be present. And then taking a look at northern Texas, and then I want to bring up the updraft velocity swath and predicted wind gusts based off the HER model. But 4 p.m., I mean, it's a nice afternoon in northern Texas. There's not a whole lot going on. But then you got to start to watch to your north. And look, there's some storms near Abilene, Wichita Falls. It's looms. And then, man, you are gonna see this coming with flashes of lightning to your north and northwest in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I mean, you're really just going to see this coming. And just be aware. Have a way to protect stuff, whether it's just... I don't know. I know not everybody has the luxury of having a garage or a carport, but if you do, I would just make sure you have your car under it, because this could be bad. But 10 p.m., 11 p.m., these storms start to hit the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Model guidance really likes the idea of around midnight, give or take an hour around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But I will note that these storms typically move faster than what's modeled. So I could see this hitting the Dallas-Fort Worth area 9, 10 o'clock. But you see how intense these storms are up here in the far northeast corner of the state of Texas. Paris, Sherman, Mary, be aware of this. Might be a night where you stay up just a little bit later. Mary's a loyal viewer up here in northeast Texas. These storms will hit you guys later this evening, like maybe after midnight. But then they'll race off and head off towards southwest Arkansas, northwest Louisiana. And I do think they'll begin to lose some steam as they get south down to College Station, Lufkin. But they could be still a lot more intense than what's being modeled. Now, let's take a look at, say, I can't spell. Man, I am everywhere. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at the updraft velocity swath in this area. And we're just going to do some of this on the fly here. Oklahoma. Let's see. And this and that. Look at how intense these updrafts look. So you see these slashes of color starting from the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, going all the way into northern Texas and right into southern and southwest counties of Oklahoma. This indicates very strong, intense updrafts. And when you get the strong and intense updrafts, potentially they're rotating. So you can get tornadoes, and this indicates just whether the worst of your storms are going to be. Let's look at the latest model. It only goes out 18 hours. But, I mean, it's indicating the same thing, same area. And then one thing we can look at here is predicted wind gust swath. Man, destructive wind gusts indicated by the HER model. I mean, you got this just wave of the color keys down here. It might be kind of small on your screen, but, I mean, 50 to as much as, that kind of that pinkish color right here. That's over 100 mile per hour wind gusts, guys. So, I mean, just nasty storms in this area. And these storms will just be working their way into just a very unstable air mass. Let's look at surface temperatures ahead of this event. Yeah, I mean, intense heating. So storms will form up here, and the temperatures will rise into like the upper 90s, low 100s. So there is a ton of energy in the atmosphere when your thermodynamics are kicking like this. I mean, and kicking as in your temperatures are this hot. let's see. Let's look at the heat index. Yeah, your heat index, guys, this afternoon, this evening in the Dallas-Fort Worth area would be pushing 110 degrees. So when it's hot and humid, and you got a lot of storms on the way, the atmosphere is ripe for a thunderstorm development. So I just want to spend some special time on that. But just giving a little bit of attention to Southwest Texas here too. Pecos, whatever it is. There are different opinions on that for sure. But we take the 3, 4, 5 p.m. A lot of storm activity will form down here. Alpine, Pecos, you guys will get some thunderstorm activity. It's around 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. There's probably going to be some nasty storms down here also. Midland, Big Springs around 7 p.m. These storms will be capable of producing very large hail also, and some damaging winds, maybe even a quick spin up. And then this stuff will begin to move off to the east and may even connect, especially near Abilene, to the storms racing in the northeast Texas. So be aware in this area for sure for this afternoon, this evening. Now, we show some attention to, I'm really focusing in on Illinois here, but, it has Indiana on the screen. But we take it to about lunchtime, not a whole lot going on. Remember, there is a slight risk of severe weather in western Illinois, and rightfully so. We got this kind of line of storms hitting Quincy, Galesburg, Peoria sometime this afternoon. 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Could get some thunderstorms that could pack a punch in Chicago. Maybe some thunderstorms into northern Indiana, maybe southwest lower Michigan, 8 p.m. And then we take it into 9 p.m., 10 p.m., just kind of a thin wave of showers and heavy rain. And then we get into after midnight, and we could get some thunderstorms in southern areas of Illinois. But, honestly, the most intense weather in this region will probably be this section right here of Illinois. Nothing too bad at all. Now, we take a look at Missouri. Missouri has been a tricky state lately. It's definitely thrown us some curveballs, and not the good way either. But 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. starts to become pretty stormy, especially in western areas of the state. You can see some intense thunderstorms from Kansas City to Joplin, right where we do have the higher risk of severe weather. 9 p.m., I would watch for some storms from Clinton to Joplin, Springfield. These could produce even a quick tornado, but large hail damaging winds. And then we got some storms extending into Illinois. But I do think the further you get closer to like Illinois, I do think these will lessen in intensity. But as we're getting to 11 p.m., midnight, storms are possible in southeast sections of the state. And we could continue to get some storms like after midnight tonight in the southern counties in Missouri. But I would say the worst weather in Missouri will probably be in this southwest section of the state, probably late afternoon, evening hours. So looking at Arkansas. Now, Arkansas, let's back it up a little bit. You guys are dealing with a little bit of thunderstorm activity this morning, really in the southern area of the state, I believe. We take it to this afternoon, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., not a whole lot going on. 9 p.m., 10 p.m., you're thinking, man, we're going to get out of this free. But we get into midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And then this is when it gets active in the western half of Arkansas. And some of these storms could be quite intense, capable of producing all hazards. Enhanced risk, I believe, does extend into this area of Arkansas. So we do have storms that can produce all hazards, especially destructive wind gusts. So if you live in this area of Arkansas, after midnight tonight is going to be your time frame to watch. These storms will try to make it into Little Rock and just further east in Arkansas as we're getting into daybreak tomorrow, but I do think they begin to lose some steam. So Louisiana, a little bit of storm activity this morning in the northern parishes. Some of this activity will drift south, try to re-intensify in central areas of Louisiana. And it might weaken, it might not. But some of these storms will try to just kind of keep going off kind of a leftover boundary, probably sagging south. We'll see what happens. So some storms are possible sort of north of Lafayette, between Alexandria and Lafayette, Baton Rouge. It's around 6 p.m. We got some strong to severe storms kind of hanging out around some of the same areas. And then we get into the overnight hours, and more storms could develop in the northern parishes, Monroe, Shreveport. And then we have to watch to see how much that line of storms from Oklahoma and Texas is going to hang together as it hits Shreveport after midnight tonight sometime. Remember, it could be a couple hours earlier than what's being predicted by this, but 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., These storms will begin to make it into Mississippi, but could wake up tomorrow morning to just some downpours and storms dancing around the southern areas of Louisiana. Now, we look at Alabama and Mississippi. I do think Tennessee, Kentucky, you're probably going to get some storms, but they're not going to be too bad today. At least I don't think. We've definitely gotten that wrong a couple times. But 8 a.m., we're going to deal with the leftover storm activity in Alabama. In fact, some of this stuff could just re-get going. So this is lunchtime. We got storms in the southwest corner of Mississippi. We got a little bit of activity in north central Mississippi and then central Alabama between Birmingham and Montgomery, getting some strong to severe thunderstorm action. And then we get into about 4 p.m. Looks like it lessens up somewhat in Mississippi, but still getting scattered activity in the lower half of Alabama. 5 p.m., 6 p.m., show some intense storms from Monroeville up to Montgomery, near Dothan, maybe even Auburn. And I do want to watch later on this evening. We could get just kind of a draping line of storms a couple hours inland off the Gulf here that could pack a punch to our southern communities in Alabama, Mississippi, even the panhandle of Florida as we get later into this evening. Eventually, this line of storms will sag south and, hit Mobile, Tallahassee maybe, and Pensacola as we're getting into the late evening hours, and eventually try to make it all the way into the Gulf. We'll see if that happens, but we're just going to continue to get, I think, a stormy night along the Gulf coastline down here. Mobile over into the panhandle of Florida, and then we could wake up to a line of storms hitting Jackson, getting into areas of Mississippi for tomorrow morning. So definitely more of a southern kind of storm day for Alabama and Mississippi. But Georgia and South Carolina, listen, we had one heck of a line of storms move through Georgia and then eventually get into South Carolina yesterday evening. It knocked out power. It kind of hit our house right before I went to bed. And I was actually worried about my 2 oak trees in my backyard. I mean, they were swaying like crazy. And, I honestly didn't get much rain from it. It was just a lot of winds. Could have another setup like that today. Now, starting off 8 a.m., we're probably going to get some storms that will impact you guys in, say, the southwestern areas of Georgia from the leftover activity in Alabama. And this action could re-intensify, but we stop it here. It's around 2 p.m. We got some storms in southern sections of Georgia. Then southern Midlands and low country of South Carolina could get some strong to severe thunderstorm activity. And in fact, we could get a line of storms that begins to hit southern coastal areas of Georgia and then the eastern half of South Carolina, coastal areas, about mid-afternoon, 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Then this action heads off. Is there anything else after that? We get into the late evening hours, midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5, not much. So you kind of watch early to mid-afternoon for some storms that could develop somewhere in this area. So Virginia and North Carolina, sort of a tricky area to watch out for today. Just enough kinematic kick in the atmosphere to get some supercells going. And already about lunchtime today, Richmond down to Virginia Beach, we could have some cells that could produce a tornado. These are just supercells. Like I said, between Richmond, Virginia Beach, this corridor here, watch out for these cells right out the gate. And then we get into the prime heating of the day. This is 3 p.m. Some isolated, I would say, strong to severe storms could pop up in North Carolina. But you see these cells up here in Virginia. Photographs do support a tornado threat with this. There is a 5% risk. Just south of Washington, D.C., we got a cell. Now, model guidance isn't going to nail this, especially when these are just kind of widely scattered supercells. They're not going to be able to predict exactly where these are going to form. But really anywhere up here in this area, and especially in Virginia, any discrete cell that could really begin to intensify could produce a tornado. And there's some cells around 6 p.m. They got some storms up in this area that could really do something here. And then you look at the eastern areas of North Carolina, we could have just kind of an organized line of storms that develops. And these could begin to slam the far eastern sections of North Carolina. It's around 8 p.m. Watch out, Outer Banks. Anybody out here could get some lines of storms. And these storms will just continue up here in Virginia, just kind of clusters of storms that could produce a quick spin up, something like that. And then we start to get into the overnight hours. But, the atmosphere does support some overlapping conditions for a tornado up here. And just taking a look at some, that's not what I wanted. Just taking a look at some parameters and stuff like that. If we go up here, do this, that, and the other. And let's look at this. Let's not look at that. I'm trying to remember which one I want to look at here. We'll get it right. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. Cool. All right, if we look at the updraft velocity swath, let's look at the latest model here. It really likes the idea of some sort of supercell developing in Northern Virginia. And this only goes out, well, this goes out to about 11 p.m. tonight. But it really shows a cell right into here. And if I actually pull up what the radar is showing with this cell, yeah, the latest actually, her model is actually showing a lot more storm development in this area. So there's going to be probably a few tornado warnings up in this area today with these cells. Just be aware of this. You know, if you look at, say, the significant tornado parameter, it does spike up in this area. Man, if it was like Saturday, I might drive up here and I didn't have nothing going on. But Sunday, can't miss church to storm chase. That is something that I do not do. But this is definitely something to watch here. Bit of a triple point kind of being met, if you will. But the updraft velocity swath does pick up on a couple intense updrafts with some of these storms, especially this up here. This one up here, kind of just south of the DC area, getting into kind of the tide water. It definitely could get some very intense supercells. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some storm chasers really get some good footage of some of these up here. We have some really great storm chasers east of the Appalachian Mountains. Most of them are well known west of the mountains because, well, it's kind of an easier area to chase because you don't have to drive as far. But we're always waiting here east of the Apps to chase a good setup, and there's a pretty good setup here in Virginia today, so we'll see what happens. But the rest of the country, the Northeast today, just some dancing downpours in West Virginia, southern areas of Ohio, more of just a solid chunk of rain getting thrown up into PA, some showers in New York City, some showers get all the way up into New York and southern New England, some showers overnight, I would say, and just showers is the general theme up here. They don't really make it up into the true area of New England. I think you guys remain mainly dry today, but yeah. North central U.S., kind of a weird day. We'll get a line of storms that'll make its way through Wisconsin. I mean, but it might not even be in the way of storms, but just mainly rain that will kind of swing through the UP of Michigan later this morning into the afternoon hours. And we actually could get some thunderstorms that develop behind this. And with some cold air aloft, you could get a little bit of small hail up here from my people that live in the UP. We got a little action down here in the Midwest we've already talked about, and we got this upper low just kind of spinning around here. And with some of this action up here in northern Minnesota, even northern Wisconsin, you see these cells here this afternoon. These could produce some small hail, but this thing is quite literally just spinning around, and then it'll just get thrown back into the Great Lakes region and areas of eastern Canada. So the western U.S., it's a quiet day. Not a whole lot to speak on. A little pop-up shower activity across the southwestern U.S. Could get a couple storms off the Front Range in Colorado. But we get past that, and it looks pretty quiet. There's just not a whole lot to speak on from my folks out west. Temperatures today, this is the eastern U.S., typical conditions for early June. This is the western U.S. Now, it's heating on up out west for sure. In fact, I believe we have heat advisories across the Pacific Northwest. I apologize for not pulling up the watches map, but it is pretty hot, and it's definitely above average out west. So, days to come, we'll round this video off. I will say we have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 across the deep south, southeast, and we have this little area that extends all the way up to just west of the Appalachian Mountains, including pretty much right up the Ohio Valley into western PA, small section of southwestern New York. But what's interesting to me is we have a 2% risk of a tornado across the southern states, and then a 2% risk of a tornado up here in the Ohio Valley. But this has my attention here for tomorrow. And then the wind threat, the entire slight risk area, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat, not very high for tomorrow. And then we go back to look at this, look at that. We are just going to run a risk of severe weather across the eastern sections of the mid-Atlantic and the southeast and the far southern sections as sort of an upper low swings through and really stabilizes the air mass. And then, you know, after that, not really seeing anything. So Haven't really read the discussion, to be honest, past this. It's, you know, over the last several days, it's just really been something where there's been enough going on to really just focus in on the day of and a couple of days out ahead. You know, I know that a lot of people would probably like me to do some sort of long range forecast, and I probably will when it slows down again, but there's enough going on right now, you know, for the day of and a couple of days out ahead of us to really just focus our attention on that. But that's all I got. Hey, I had my buddy Gerald, you guys know him, GM Weather, that came down yesterday afternoon. And he helped me with a few things, and we kind of came to the conclusion with a few things that I definitely need a new PC, new computer. The one down here at my feet has definitely gotten its money's worth by far. But I really think that it's just running out of steam, and it's done really great. But I do think at the end of the day, it's the main reason why some of my videos are lagging with my words. To the actual, well, to my mouth, to the actual audio of my words. And, you know, I wasn't doing that several months ago, but I just think that, I think it just might explode one day. It's just it definitely gets its money's worth. And I have so many tabs pulled up, and some of these higher powered computers can handle all those tabs, but I just think that this thing is just wearing down. So it's about time to invest in a new computer. So I'll be on the market of that probably over the summer. I like the idea of having a new one by hurricane season. You know, I want to improve the quality of these videos, and more importantly, you know, I want to set up something in my backdrop. And, you know, am I going to create some massive studio? Not anytime soon. And you guys, you know, I'm not going to change anything what I do. I'm not going to change the length of my videos. I'm not going to change my Bible devotions. Not going to change the personal feel of this channel. But there is things with this channel that I would like to upgrade, and I do think it would help get these videos out to more people. From being completely honest with you, I think that there's reasons why the algorithm obviously isn't picking up on my stuff, but I think that's one of the reasons. It's just time to upgrade some stuff. But we'll see what we need to do going forward. Just putting band-aids on stuff for now until it's, you know, I can invest in something high quality PC wise. But he came down and helped me with OBS. I'm still rocking with ScreenPal right now, but you know, most people use OBS. But I tried to use it. I actually did a video last night and I didn't end up dropping it, but it still made some sections of the video very blurry. So I didn't end up dropping the video. And it is very, you definitely got to work with it. OBS is something you got to learn, and he definitely showed me the ropes, Gerald did, with that. But this has all been a process, and I feel like, you know, with the channel, we've made a lot of progress over the last few weeks with moving in here, and the reason I haven't put anything else on my backdrop is because I don't know what I'm going to adjust. I don't know what I'm going to move around. So before I really start putting stuff, I want to put weather images up here. Before I start really putting things up behind me, I just want everything to be kind of set for at least the foreseeable future. But it was cool, man. I set up my DSLR camera. The quality was a lot better, but the actual PC is really holding back some of the quality of my audio and the actual picture. So just time to stop being cheap and to invest in some stuff. So I think I definitely have been patient with making purchases for a very, very long time and haven't pulled the trigger unnecessary. So that's all I got. Just like to do my morning ramble session with you guys and just kind of upgrade what's going on. But hey, one last thing and I'll let you go. I am going to make kind of just a mini video sometime over the next several days. I want to talk to you guys about what's going on. We got vacation coming up. Next week, I can say now, between the 18th and the 22nd, and me and my family are very excited about it. And I'm not going to have a video for you guys. I know I did that over last fall, but I just really want to enjoy this vacation. And I might make little small videos, but they might not even be weather related. I might see a bear and then video a bear or something and then post it in the short. So, you know, you guys are family too, you know, but I'll definitely give you updates on what's going on with the weather, but it's not going to be the form of like this. So, but I'll talk about that in a video here in the next couple of days. Just kind of give you an update of what's been going on and what's to come over the next month or so. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day and stay safe today. These lines of storms in the southern plains are going to be dangerous. So God bless.